Hello, everyone, and welcome back to BBA Sports. We are continuing our series of going through each and every NFL division, going through both the simulation that I created that goes from week one all the way through the Super Bowl for each and every team. Also, my personal predictions, also a bold take for each and every team, either for the team as a whole or for an individual player. We're going division by division. This episode is the NFC North. We are doing all the Norths, then all the Souths, all the East, then all the Wests. All AFCs are on Fridays, and all NFCs are on Tuesdays. Thank you for watching, and hope you enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, as that really helps. Hope you enjoy the video. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to BBA Sports. This is the second episode of this series, and this is the NFC North episode. If you would like to see the AFC North episode, please go back to this playlist that I have linked down below, as all of the bold takes per division will be on there. We are going division by division, both through a simulation that I created and my own personal predictions, as well as bold takes for every single team by division. Before we get into it, I would like to first go through an overview of some different things that we talked about in our last video, just to talk about them again before we get into it. So here's the overview. Here are my different rankings buckets that I put every single player in that is in the NFL, both those that are on teams and both that are in free agency. These are my different rankings: superstar, dependable starter, shaky starter, quality backup, rookies, incomplete, fringe backup, and practice squad players. There's only a few of the very top tier, and there's also a very few incomplete, as incomplete is mostly second year players or players that have something that they need to either prove or they're coming off a major injury, and then all the rest is pretty much evenly divided. There's a few more shaky starters than dependable starters. There is a few more fringe backups than quality backups. But that is all the typical ranking stuff, and each of them have a specific point value that I run through the simulation. Then I also took a certain amount of from each position per team, and that it would be 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 receivers, 3 tight ends, 3 offensive tackle, 3 offensive guard, 3 centers, 4 interior defensive linemen, 4 edge players, 3 stack linebackers, 5 cornerbacks, and 3 safeties. I took that amount from each team, added up the totals. I also added in head coach and play calling points as well, and also if the team had a home field advantage to go through this simulation. If you would like to watch last week, the episode on the AFC, please go back and do that. But let's get into it. The first team that we're talking about today is the Detroit Lions. The simulation had them going 14-3, where I personally had them going 13-4. The Detroit Lions are one of my better ranked teams overall. They have a really good quarterback, a really good receiving duo, really good tight end room, really good offensive linemen, really good defense as a whole. They're just all around as a good team in general. And they also have a really good running back, who's now the highest paid running back at $22.5 million per year, and that is Jahmyr Gibbs. And with this new contract, it goes into the bold take of, with Jahmyr Gibbs taking on more as the main running back, with David Montgomery being traded to the Houston Texans. He will lead the league in both rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is an amazing player, and I think with taking on more of a role as the number one running back, both as taking on more responsibilities from David Montgomery, especially with whom they've added this past offseason, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to take that next step from being a really good one to one of the best, if not the best, running back in the NFL. This goes into our next team, and that team is the Minnesota Vikings. The simulation has them going 7-10, where I personally have them going 9-8. They have a really good team, especially with Brian Flores over on defense, calling the defensive plays and how their defense has been structured and how the offensive is structured. I think it's a really good team. The only reason why I personally don't have them higher is because of the quarterback. They have Kyler Murray, who is an unknown at this point from being injured and has had struggles in the past. A couple years staying healthy for the whole season and consistently being a dependable starter, as well as his competition is J.J. McCarthy, and we all saw how that was last year. So, with the talking about the quarterbacks, I predict Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback this year. And that take is Kyler Murray will be healthy for the entire season and will throw for 4,000 yards. For the first time in his career, Kyler Murray has never thrown for 4,000 yards. The closest he ever got was in 2020, where he threw 3,971 yards. I think Kyler Murray with Justin Jefferson and several of these other wide receivers that they have on the team and the tight end room that they have, I think Kyler Murray will be able to go back to being a healthy version of himself, as well as being able to have a number one receiver that you'll be consistently being able to go to in Justin Jefferson, one of the best in the game, and he will be able to have a consistent number one that he's able to throw the ball to. That was the Minnesota Vikings. The next team is the Green Bay Packers. I have the simulation has them going 11-6, where I personally have them going 12-5. They did lose Jeff Hafley this season to become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, so they are getting a new defense. The new defensive coordinator is Jonathan Gannon from the Arizona Cardinals, which I do think he is an interesting defensive play caller, but I'd like to see a little bit more, especially after his time in Arizona. I think it's more along the lines of he had too many responsibilities as the head coach, as he's a really good defensive play caller. And then we also going into they did lose some of their top wide receivers, but I still think that they have good wide receivers all around. Especially, and this goes into the take. The take is Matthew Golden will be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver after a disappointing rookie season. We all get it. Matthew Golden was a first round pick and he was really hyped up, and he had a disappointing receiving. 29 receptions on 44 targets, 361 yards, and 0 touchdowns. He was used a little bit in the run game as of his speed, but I think Matthew Golden, now with some time in the system, time to have grown a little bit from going from college to the professional, I think he's going to be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. And that also translates to being the number one or number two receiver. I believe the number one receiver for the Green Bay Packers. And then they also have Christian Watson, who is also a wide receiver who they also paid, and Jaden Reed as another receiver they also paid this offseason. And that goes into our last team. And that team is the Chicago Bears. The simulation has them going 3-14, where I personally have them going 7-10. They did lose a lot of their veterans this past offseason, as well as they were trying to get a little bit younger. But just because of the record doesn't mean I don't think they're going to have a good season. I just think they played a really tough division, and they have also a harder schedule for being a first place team in the first place schedule this season. And this doesn't necessarily go into the take, but this take doesn't reflect how I personally view the Chicago Bears this season. That take is Caleb Williams will pass for over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, rush for 400 yards, and rush for 5 touchdowns, finishing in the top 5 for MVP voting. I think Caleb Williams is going to take that another step from being a good quarterback to becoming an amazing quarterback. I think Caleb Williams is a very special talent, and I'm very interested to see what the Chicago Bears will do, especially with some of these younger receivers that they have, the Colson Loveland that they drafted, uh, several of these other receivers that they've brought in over the past few drafts. I think the Chicago Bears could very sneakily prove both the simulation and me personally wrong, but with how it is at this point, I don't think the Chicago Bears can go past 7-10. I think they will have a rough start to the season, but by the end of the season, they're going to be firing on all cylinders and could be a fringe playoff team, a sneaky playoff team this season. So let's get into the final rankings. The simulation had the Detroit Lions going 14-3, the Green Bay Packers going 11-6, the Minnesota Vikings going 7-10, and the Chicago Bears going 3-14. Where I personally had the rankings is Detroit Lions 13-4, the Green Bay Packers 12-5, the Minnesota Vikings 9-8, and the Chicago Bears 7-10. Excuse me. This was the NFC North episode. Please come back Friday for the AFC South because we'll be doing all the Norths, then all the Souths, all the Easts, and all the Wests. We'll be doing all AFC teams on Fridays and all NFC teams on Tuesday. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button and please subscribe down below as that really, really helps the channel. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.